What's up, guys? I'm Carly.
And I'm Gabby.
So if this is your first time seeing our channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button to see any more of our future posts and click the notification bell to get notified every single time we post, and follow us on our Instagram at quote.horror.
So as you guys can see, we have some guests here with us today because we're doing a very special video about the male perspective for female revenge horror movies.
We're just going to allow them to introduce themselves. So Santiago, you can go first.
What's up, homies? I'm Santiago. I live upstate in a town called Johnstown. I attend Fulton Montgomery Community College. I love horror, you know. Follow me at Santi _Brion .3, which is it's basically my third Instagram account since I've made so many. You can follow me on Twitter. I have a blog. It's called Santi's Film Reviews on santisfilmreviews.blogspot.com. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Hi, I'm Sean. My Instagram handle is just my name, at Sean Blumenshine, and I have a YouTube channel under the same name. I do a mix of horror movie reviews and kind of rock and roll music reviews.
Oh, lit!
Ooh, oh, that is lit, boy.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and as you can tell, I'm a huge horror fan, as you can tell by this little guy.
Yay.
And this one.
Oh God.
Yes. I've got like a massive collection. My Instagram is horrordude_89.
So hi, I'm Vonnegut. You can find me on Instagram at Vonnegut, VONNEGUT. I also have YouTube, Video Vulgar. I do things sometimes. I posted like 3 years ago, I think was the last time, but I got something coming up. So Video Vulgar.
He also has a podcast that we were on.
I have a podcast. Oh yeah, I also have a podcast, Video Vulgar, on Spotify. Gabby and Carly were on it one time, and a second time, but I never uploaded the second one ever.
Thank you, boys, for introducing yourselves. I don't want to ask you guys what your opinions are on revenge films, films dealing with domestic abuse, like horror films, and just anyone who wants to start, just go ahead. Vonnegut's very enthusiastic about this, so let's
I am.
Yeah. And also, before we get started, we want to make a quick disclaimer.
Yeah, so basically, of course, you know, this topic might be a bit controversial for some people because it touches upon social issues such as, you know, gender differences, rape or sexual abuse. So if somebody's not comfortable with that topic, like, please click out of the video because it's going to be a very mature and respectful conversation. So yeah, we just wanted to make that little disclaimer.
And also, for the guys in this video, please do not talk over each other because we want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. We don't want any voices overlapping. Plus, it's like, you know, video call, so things can kind of like sound very weird. So let's all give each other a chance to speak and it'll be great. Vonnegut, you wanted to get started, so kind of tell us your opinions on these type of films in general and how you feel about them, and then you guys can start piggybacking off of what he says and just...
I mean, just for starters, I think it's a great genre. I think it's one of the cornerstones of horror in general, because you go back to, like, that was what most 1970s, not most, but that was a big thing in the 1970s. I mean, that's how Wes Craven got his start with these, like, rape revenge flicks, like Last House on the Left. Sean S. Cunningham I think he was involved with Last House on the Left as well before Friday the 13th. And I mean, from that, you get like modern slasher flicks, modern from like the 80s onward and stuff. But like, I think these types of movies have really taken a dive recently because it's become less about being a movie and more about being a soapbox. And I think that's problematic in the sense as when you're just preaching, nobody's listening. A la Black Christmas 2019. Just, yeah.
Yeah,
and
very true. That's very true.
I have no problem with the message at hand, but it's a movie at that point. It like, I don't know. But also that movie had a lot of problems in its own right. So like, I don't want to just assume, like pretend that I think that that's all this genre is represented by. But yeah, I think when it's subtle, it can be really powerful. But when they overdo it, and stuff, I think it just becomes really irritating. But that goes for any political message in movies in general, not just specifically this.
Back to what you said about Black Christmas, that's one of the movies that we really wanted to focus on, Black Christmas 2019 in like particular. We made a whole separate review on Black Christmas 2019, and it was, we were against that whole movie entirely. If you watched that—
I have a theory. I have a theory about why, sorry to cut you off, but I have a theory about how that got made. And I want to go into it really quick here. You know that like Blumhouse Hulu show where they do, I think it's called Into the Dark. They do every month a holiday theme. It's awful. It's these movies that are just like backdoor Blumhouse films that aren't cut out for theaters. So they like dump it onto there. And I guarantee that this movie started out as some sort of Into the Dark special. And then they realized that they had the rights to the Black Christmas title. And then they were like, oh, here, force this connection here. And we'll release it as Black Christmas.
Right.
Really think that's what happened here.
It definitely doesn't feel like it was originally intended to be Black Christmas. Like, if you watch it,
it doesn't feel like a movie.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the original and the 2007 remake, I believe.
Yeah.
When the remake came out. Yeah.
2006.
Yeah, 2006.
There was nothing like tied into it. I thought it was just flat the entire time. The only good thing about that is that 2019 one was when they paid homage to The Exorcist 3, where that chick's walking out of the room
yeah.
it was just like, that's cool.
Should have been rated R.
Yeah.
Well, the reason they actually, the director wanted, like, it was gonna be at one point and then they neutered it, but the idea was because it's supposed to be empowering towards like younger generation, so they would felt bad if those people couldn't see it. But I think that's a lie, if I'm being honest. Also,
I don't buy it.
Young females in this generation, the message was extremely offensive and extremely like debilitating towards the image of men in this society. It was just so flat out rude towards guys and just painting the college scene as sororities and fraternities.
I have to say, I did visit a frat where they kept this like secret vial of black goo that they all worshipped, and at night they would dress up in these cloaks and they'd all like touch the black goo and they're like, we have to murder all women. So I think that part was based in fact, but the rest of it I think was.
Love that. we love personal examples. Thanks, Mom.
Damn.
From a guy's perspective, when you guys saw Black Christmas and you saw kind of how females were I guess depicting males in the movie, how did you feel? Making you guys look like the monsters. I mean, not you guys in particular, but like just like your species.
Me.
And I guess think of it in terms of think of it in terms of extreme feminism, right? It was very extreme feminism, and that's why it's very dangerous for us as females to associate with feminism because of that type of man-hating message, you know? So how does that make you feel? I do have something to say on this point. I don't mean to keep like suppressing the rest of you. I don't mind it to an extent because it's in the same way as like for a guy watching Rambo. I think it's just this extreme cartoony version of like what femininity is supposed to be. But I do think it goes to the extent where it creates this image that the world is full of monsters out to kill you. And I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a weird message. I feel like you can be empowering without being like fake and disingenuous, because it's in the same way as like those dollar store like girls can do it too like bracelets. It's just they don't believe that. They're just selling you this product, and it just makes it feel really disingenuous. So I'm not a fan from that front. But if it was like a genuine attempt to say that all men are monsters, then yeah, I'm on board. Like men suck. But I don't know. When you're coming at it from this like corporate angle, it just feels gross. Sean, you were going to say something?
Yeah, for me, I think the issue is more kind of just how exaggerated and kind of cartoony it was, because of all the male characters, you really only had two modes. They were either like super like soft kind of, I guess, simp for lack of a better term, or on the other hand, Emperor Palpatine pretty much. Mm-hmm. Like every bad guy male character played it like to 11, just like really like mustache twirly. And so it was kind of ridiculous in that sense. The
Yeah,
depiction didn't really make me feel anything other than just kind of indifference because it's hard to engage with or take seriously, which is weird in a movie that wants to tackle kind of heavy subject matter.
exactly. Because with the male characters, they weren't playing different roles. They were all playing the same characters pretty much. There was no like good guy or the in between one. It was just all like right into like bad guy, bad guy, bad guy.
That's the
But
thing he mentioned, like, about with the movie too. Sorry to cut you off, but that's like another
Yeah.
thing he mentioned. Like, every single guy that was like pretty much in the movie, they made them seem like they were horrible, like
yeah,
all the time. Like that was the street message. Like nothing related to Black Christmas. Almost like what Vaughn was saying. It was probably one of those. What did you say it was? The Hulu.
Into the Dark on Hulu.
Mm.
Subscribe to Hulu. Watch Blumhouse's Into the Dark.
Right. So basically piggybacking off of what Vaughn said, just like you would never think it was a Black Christmas movie because, it just had the title, so it kind of gave it clout where it's like, oh, it's part of the Black Christmas like series and stuff like that. But just
it felt like a different kind of horror movie, not Black Christmas per se.
Right.
I don't know
think
if
that's a fine. Sorry. Yeah,
no, all good.
I think that's a fine way to approach a reboot when, like, I don't know. I don't mind the idea of doing something completely different with it, but just disingenuous is just the only word that really comes to mind. And also, speaking to like the all men are evil, there were two male characters who were okay, but then the one midway through the movie, he literally argued with his girlfriend. He's like, I don't know, I don't think rape is that bad, and then that was it for him. So it's like, yeah.
That's the thing when a horror movie or a movie in general tries to influence social issues, especially I guess if it's about rape or domestic abuse or feminism, it has to be done in a very tasteful manner. Otherwise, it's not going to have the powerful effect and I guess an awareness type of effect as the movie wanted, and that's exactly how we felt with Black Christmas 2019. Like there was no sense of empowerment or yes, let's go women. No, it was just really, really like gross and at least a bad taste in your mouth, in our opinion. But so Santiago, I know you watched the movie recently, so do you have any thoughts on the movie? I know you said it deserved an R rating, so do you want to explain why?
Like, if it's a horror movie with like mysterious guy with a dagger, you don't slap a PG-13 rating on the movie's face. You give it an R rating. Like, it's killing women.
Now we're going to actually go on the topic of I Spit on Your Grave, the original one that came out in 1978. Okay? So that one definitely received a lot of negative reviews from critics. And what do you guys think? And comparing that to the one that came out in 2010, what do you guys think?
I watched the original probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
Because I wanted to re-watch it, and it was like for a 70s horror, it was like really, really out there. But like the rape scene, I couldn't watch it. I had to leave the room just to not because I didn't want to see it. I was like, this isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And then comparing that rape scene to the remake, I had to do the exact same thing. I was just like, no, this isn't. It's a big no-no. Like a guy should not do that. But it made the movie like good, but not like explode.
Going back to that whole scene in the original film, a general question for everybody. Do you think there are certain boundaries that these, rape, domestic abuse horror films cross? Like, do you think there are certain boundaries that they should have? Or do you think that majority of them kind of stayed within the boundaries to kind of prove their point? Like, what do you guys think? In terms of boundaries, like, how does that work?
I was just going to say, I think in terms of boundaries, that's ultimately up to the viewer, because there are things that maybe I can handle watching that somebody else can't, or vice versa. In the specific case of a kind of a rape revenge kind of film, I tend to be conflicted about them because I don't really enjoy those scenes, and they can, for me, tend to feel kind of exploitive and unnecessary. But I think that's ultimately just kind of up to each individual what they're comfortable with. And
Yeah.
the point is to be disturbing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it should be up to the creator, because it's like, if that's what you think you need to make your story effective, by all means. I mean, it may not land, obviously, but if that's what you feel you need to show, then like, I don't think that we should set like a precedent. Do you guys see Promising Young Woman?
No.
No.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, that I'm not going to spoil it, but I mean, it does deal with this subject matter in a much, much better way than Black Christmas. But that movie never really gets too graphic unless it needs to. But when it needs to, like, it lands really well.
I saw that it got like really, really great reviews, and I'm really excited to watch that.
So who here saw Invisible Man when it came out right before the pandemic?
I did.
I did.
I saw
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So did you guys like it?
I loved it. I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
I think it was one of the best movies of 2020. Theatrical release
Yeah,
of
you know what?
2020.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah.
That house at the start, like of the opening scene, that's like 30 minutes away from where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because Lee Winnell. Yeah.
He's from Sydney, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Lee
Yeah,
Winnell's
so-
Australian.
Yeah, because where it was filmed, I was like, I know that area. I've been like past there.
So do you guys consider The Invisible Man to be a revenge horror flick?
Because
Kind of.
Inspired.
Kind of.
Inspired by, I would say.
the idea of like domestic abuse, more like being stuck in a relationship and trying to escape a like abusive relationship.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that type of film depicting
Like the depiction.
physical abuse? Her trying to escape like a controlling environment from a guy who's like controlling the female.
It was a great way for a movie to depict like domestic violence and all that, and the ability to because being in like a very toxic relationship, it's basically like even scarier than anything else in horror, in my opinion. Like they took the idea of domestic abuse and turned it into something that's truly frightening,
Mhm.
and I think that was great. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's one of the best things about horror movies in general. Like when they do things like that, they take like your, real fears. Like, of course we have like those like monsters and like ghosts and supernatural stuff. But when they take like real fears, such as being stuck in a, domestic abusive relationship or something that like you feel like you've escaped the abusive guy and, the invisible man, he's still following you. You never know when he's there. Things like that makes it more scary. That's why we always say when people ask us, like Gabby and I, we always talk about this. When people ask us like why we like horror movies, it's always because horror movies, they have the ability to tell stories like no other, because they can take your greatest fear and just turn it into this whole like cinematic like production. And it's like, well, and I think that's where like the true fear and like horror becomes like very effective.
That is very true. And how Celia was like saying to people, I can see him doing all these things, and it's like my mind's not playing tricks on me. It's actually right there happening. Like he's sitting right there, and they're like, no, you're just seeing things. I'm like, no, it's true. Like I'll show you evidence. And how she like was taking like photos of it, and just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the movie had a beautiful blend between psychological horror, obviously, with how the female, main character took the entire situation, but also like the way that the movie manifested all these like domestic abuse situations and fears in real life right in front of her face was just beautifully done. So just hopping into a question for all of you, are there any type of female revenge horror flicks that you guys consider to be like offensive or maybe controversial or too in your face?
The rape scene in I Spit on Your Grave is definitely too long.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it necessarily offends me, but it's a really big chunk of the movie, I think unnecessarily so. Other than that, I can't really think of any other, because otherwise you're just kind of getting into more like kind of Z grade, kind of more exploitation kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess maybe a better way to rephrase the question, are there any types of female revenge horror movies that you find hard to watch or that are maybe too jarring for you and your sensitivity when it comes to horror movies?
I think Black Christmas 2019 is offensive, but not in the way that like I just think it's offensive because it's a bad movie. If a movie's good, I'm not gonna like be like, well, I'm not properly represented in it. I like it. Just make good movies. I don't care.
Thought going back to The Invisible Man 2020, I kind of wanted to get the male's perspective thoughts on manipulation and gaslighting in a relationship, because that was a big component in The Invisible Man 2020. Like, of course, we had, you know, the domestic abuse, but like there was so much gaslighting. There was so much, I mean, like he was literally gaslighting her without even being there, because she didn't even realize, like she, you know, she thought she was going crazy, but he was literally there, like in his invisible suit. She thought he was dead. It was this whole thing. She was gaslighted by like other people, whole situation. So just, you know, whoever wants to go first, like in general, what do you think when you like see a male figure manipulating a woman or gaslighting her when she, you know, is telling the truth?
It's not good.
Yeah, especially when she had that job interview, and she had a briefcase with her, and he took out all her artwork. Like, he was just like, no, you can't go to the job interview. I don't want you to have an income, like, because he's given her all this money, and it's like, here you go, I'm giving you all this money. You're not going to be able to, you don't have to work anymore. It's right there for you. Like, you don't have to worry about working for the rest of your life. Like, it's her choice. If she wants to have the job, go for the job.
Yeah, it's almost like his ego was like he wasn't even there, and his ego was like being depleted just because she was looking out getting a job for herself, wanting to make money for herself, you know. So.
Because she was being a strong, independent woman, and that was apparently very bothersome for him. Also, because he was he felt satisfaction in manipulating her and causing her psychological trauma. So when an abused person tries to branch out or escape from an abuser, it's a big trauma on the abuser, him or herself, you know.
I wasn't able to relate to her because, like, luckily I've never been in a situation on that, but I could relate on like a more human level. Like, it is problematic. I've been lucky enough to not really know relationships like this, but I've heard horror stories of like friends of friends being in these types of things. So like, I don't know if this is like a cartoony portrayal of what that actually looks like, or if this is what that is, but it didn't feel like, with Black Christmas, it felt really fake and like forced, but like there's genuine people in a shitty situation in Invisible Man. So I kind of like, I appreciate it from that angle. Like, it doesn't, like, it makes it feel more, and it's more effective. I think, like, I don't love that movie. I think it's just fine, but I would think about it before I think about Black Christmas, like any day. Black Christmas didn't really stick.
Very forgettable type of movie.
Very.
2019.
Let's just sweep that under the rug.
Please.
Gone.
No,
Yes.
I think we should keep it forever, because remember that scene where she like pushed the guy over and then it turned out the guy was just a statue in a robe?
Which movie are we talking about?
Black Christmas. We gotta let's keep the memory of it.
All right, perfect. That was a digression, but it's fine. We're chilling.
Yeah.
If you cut it out, I'm gonna be really mad. I'm gonna be like, "Where's that tirade about Freddy Krueger?" So you better have a good reason.
Come on, where is it?
In terms of like rape and revenge movies, like they're not my favorite, but I think that I could see why that these, like, you know, creators want to like exploit rape, you know, that they were trying to like make a social critique on it, kind of. And there's one film that kind of got it right, and that was the French movie Revenge, you know. Like, no nudity, it wasn't exploitative, it was just full-on action movie by being feministic and not being in your face. Like that, and I thought that was done right, you know?
And Sean, how do female revenge horror flicks make you feel as a male viewer?
You guys were kind of saying earlier, the advantage of horror films is that you can kind of look at darker or more unpleasant kind of parts of culture and society and tell stories about them. And so I wouldn't want these films to shy away from uncomfortable subject matter. I don't really feel like offended by it. Like rape is a thing that happens quite a bit, and more often than not, men are the perpetrators. So it doesn't really like upset me, if that's the question. And I do tend to enjoy the kind of films once they kind of make that switch into the revenge aspect, because there is something really thrilling about seeing bad people be punished for their wrongful actions when in real life that doesn't happen as often as it maybe should.
Yeah, that was actually really well put. There's definitely a big sense of satisfaction. I remember when Carly and I were watching I Spit on Your Grave, the remake together, we said that the revenge scenes with all the guys were very, very satisfying for us, especially that one particular scene. I don't know.
When the guy's balls were cut off. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
I enjoyed that.
It's just very, very satisfying.
I enjoyed the torture scenes better than the movie itself. Okay, like that was god tier. I mean, that's kind of like exaggeration a bit, but I just want to say I love those scenes. So.
Well, these were all really great responses, and I think everyone like really got a chance to, talk about their opinions and like let their voices be heard. I just have one more question. If there's like another like very like revenge gory movie coming out, would you guys go see it?
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
totally. Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
Probably.
For sure.
It depends.
Well, I mean,
If it looks good.
Well, I mean, definitely not the next Saw, but.
So thank you guys all for participating, and we really, really loved hearing your opinions, and it was really nice to meet all of you and just to have this collective little group talking about horror movies, and it was really, really lovely. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoy this video, and we'll see you all next time.
Everyone wave.
Leave a like.
Everybody wave together. Yay! Bye!
Bye.